This week we were at Kentucky. We took the Gen 6 car to a high-speed 1.5 mile that is recently repaved and expected good racing on a single groove racetrack. So yeah, well, to be fair, I didn't expect good racing. I'd never got into the race excited at all. But let's review the race and then we'll get into details. I actually have this race gave me a couple of video ideas actually for the upcoming week. So not everything is bad. To begin, Truex was on pole. Larson had to go to the back for missing driver introductions, which is odd. He apologized for that. He was embarrassed, and I'd be embarrassed too if I missed driver introductions, and that's why I was sent to the back. As stage one went on, it became pretty clear that Truex was going to be one of the best cars to beat. The superstar from last week, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., had some contact with Jamie McMurray down the back straightaway, which cut his left rear tire, pretty much ending his race. He went down a couple of laps. He had to come back down pit road because something just wasn't right with the car, so he was pretty much done after that. Ricky Stenhouse was the main storyline heading into this week's race because of his antics at Daytona for basically wrecking half the field. And yeah, what goes around comes around in my opinion. I have no ill will against Stenhouse. I don't hate the guy. It's just that when you race like an idiot the week prior, eventually, if it's not the week after, or it might be the year after, or 2 years after, it comes back to haunt you. And yeah, it didn't really work out for him. Also in stage one, Brad Keselowski had a speeding penalty when he forgot that yellow to yellow rule, yellow line to yellow line on pit road. He forgot it real quick and sped on the exit of pit road. He had to go down a couple of laps, and that was kind of affect his race because he was pretty good up towards the front. We'll get into that a little bit later as well, as who was actually good because clean air mattered so much. But he was fairly decent, and then the speeding on pit road, and yeah. Stage 1, Martin Truex Jr. won. We head over to stage 2, and this time Kurt Busch is on 2 tires, I think. Logano's on old tires. And this was predicted even before the race started that maybe someone could take 2 or take no tires and stay up front because clean air just matters so incredibly much. And Kurt Busch, who was pretty much average, I think, most of the race, was able to hold off Truex for multiple laps, like 10 to 15 laps before he got past. Logano, who was on old tires, was able to hang on a third for a little bit before he finally went backwards just a little bit as you get into more dirty air. And when I saw that, I kind of knew what we were in for tonight, which would be really sad, where it just doesn't matter what a driver does. If you put a car up there in the lead, it'll be able to hold its own for a little bit just because it matters that much. And it's really sad to see that clean air is the king of everything. Race fans don't watch racing to see if air can give you a win. Because air can't be seen and it's not exciting. Unless your name's Dale Earnhardt. He could see air, but if you're not him, well, damn. As stage 2 goes along, Truex would go ahead and win that as well because he was just that good. It took him a couple of laps to get past that car who was on older tires, but he'd be able to get back up towards the lead and just kind of dominate from that point on. Heading into the final stage, and this happened in stage 2 as well, the restarts are probably the most exciting part of this race, but that's not even saying much because it's not even real racing. What I mean by real racing is you couldn't get drivers side by side and then have them, determine it off like the run off a corner or driver skill. It wasn't like that. When you enter turn 1, Kyle Busch would get super loose on the bottom and almost wreck the car on the outside. It happened to Daniel Suarez. It happened to Ryan Blaney. It happened to so many guys on the bottom lane because on the initial restart with those, I would say brand new tires, the tire pressure is not all the way up, but with this car at this track with the air, putting cars side by side, not a good idea, and every single restart, the back of the pack would get, or the middle of the pack would get bundled up a little bit because there just was nowhere to go and the cars on the inside would get loose. But it created excitement because things were happening, I guess. It just wasn't real racing. When this was happening, this led to the rest of the field just being single file. So when fans complain, and I don't have this complaint a lot, but when fans complain about single file racing, you want to see passing. So fans want the plate package because it bunches the cars up and maybe promotes more passing. This is kind of what they're complaining about this race. Because drivers know they can't go side by side a la the restarts. If they do it, they wreck or get close to wrecking. So they just go single file. And it's a one-lane track. You can't go up top. It's not like Chicagoland. You can't go to the top. You can't go to the middle. You have to run the bottom to be fast. And this is what happens. This is the biggest complaint I think I see from fans when they want that plate package, which it's for avoiding races like this. This was Just really bad. So quickly to finish up the review, Truex has to get around Brad Keselowski, who stayed out at the end of the final stage, but he's able to do it. And then when he gets into the lead, I think Kurt Busch stayed out on the final restart on older tires, 2 new tires. Took him a little while to get around Kurt, but once he got around him, it was pretty much a done deal. Truex would win the race. There's really nothing else to talk about. I mean, Kyle Larson did have an issue with his track bar adjustment, which actually does play a role into this review because we'll get into that a little bit later as well. He struggled from there on out because the track bar was basically moving itself down, which would make him a lot tighter, and he couldn't get it back up. So we'll talk about that too. Quickly, the race results. We have Truex, Blaney, Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick. You'll notice the big 3 are up there in Truex, Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick in the top 5. Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, 2 Penske cars that usually do well at Kentucky, so not surprising to see them up there as well. Kurt Busch in 6th place. Eric Jones coming off his first career win in 7th. Eric Almirola, Kyle Larson, Logano is your top 10. Only one Chevy in the top 10, which is Larson. Paul Menard, Clint Boyer, Elliott Johnson, and Suarez round out the top 15. No big surprises. Hendrick struggle again. Chevy struggle again. But Larson was running up towards the front a little bit before that track bar issue what happened to him. So maybe he could have finished top 5 most likely. But with that track bar issue, drops him down to 9th. Denny Hamlin in 16th, a pretty disappointing result for him. Jamie Mack, David Reagan, Matt Kenseth. Got a big shout out to Matt Kenseth. Even though it's only a 19th place finish, that 6 car has not been running well pretty much all season with Kenseth or Bain in it. So 19th place for that 6 car is not bad at all. Willie B, the rookie, in 20th. Newman, Dillon, Buescher, McDowell, Casey Kane, and then the rest of the field. You'll notice Alex Bowman finished last because he cut a tire and got into the wall. So his race was done at that point. He finishes in last place. Now on to some of the overall pictures of the race, the view of the race. I want you guys to comment down below what you thought of it. I have a pretty good idea what the response will be. I don't think many people would have enjoyed that race. There were some people that tweeted at me who were at the track that did not enjoy that race. So I'm not expecting to see a lot of positive reactions, and it is very well understandable because that race was, in my opinion, also very, very poor. Couple of reasons for this that you guys have probably heard over and over, but if you haven't heard before, it is a repaved racetrack recently. Kentucky was repaved recently, not last year, but recently. So the track is not old yet. There's no character to the racetrack, which makes it a single lane, high-speed mile and a half, just like Texas or just like Kansas, and this is the race you get when you repave a mile and a half, and the track does not wear, and this is what happens. Add that with the Gen 6 race car, which is the worst race car ever made. Hint for a video coming soon. This race gave me that idea, so hint for that. The worst race car ever made, combined with single lane tracks at mile and a half, and this happens every time. I've kind of gotten desensitized to it. I'm not even that angry anymore. It just is what it is. I've been trying to be positive. If you guys haven't realized, I've been trying to be very positive about the sport recently. I have not been bashing on it. I've not been making those why NASCAR's in deep trouble videos recently. I haven't been making that kind of stuff just because I'm waiting patiently to see what they do with the race cars. But this race, let's put it this way. I completely understand why people change the channel. I've watched NASCAR my entire life, and sitting through that race was painful. Like, I wasn't even enjoying myself. I was on my phone most of the time talking with you guys on Twitter. I was chilling with my parents a little bit. I was getting some food. I was on my computer watching some Arsenal highlights. Like, I wasn't really paying attention to the race, because when I did pay attention and I tried actually studying what was going on and maybe enjoying good racing, none of it was there. It was pathetic. So imagine a casual fan or someone who's not as deep into the sport as I am. Imagine them watching this, just, chilling on a Saturday night, want to watch a good race or something. That's not good of them. They'll change the channel to a movie on FX or something. And I understand why NASCAR's lost half of its viewers over the last decade. That race was complete dog shit. Really, really bad. I give it probably a 2 out of 10. It was really, really horrible. Quick note on the track bar adjustment. Liam actually brought a really good point up, and this is true. He's been saying it for a while. I haven't really talked about it a lot, but it's true, is that the track bar adjustments that Larson was using, you noticed when it went wrong, he fell back. You have to take that into account for all the drivers. So all the drivers have this track bar adjustment where over the course of a run, you can change your track bar to make sure your car handles relatively decently to where you want it to be throughout most of the run. A couple of years ago, when this wasn't in place, you'd have comers and goers as much as you could, because if you start the run off tight, you would end up maybe getting loose. If you start the run off loose, you'd end up gradually getting tight. or whatever the car does, whatever the balance does over the course of a run, the driver can't change it. So that would build more adjustability in the cars. It'd make pit road stops and crew chief adjustments a little bit more exciting, and maybe cause them. There goes the lighting. Back to what I was saying. It would make adjustments maybe matter a little bit more. It would make the run have comers and goers, because a car won't handle the same throughout the course of the run. So even though you might have the leader who might be really good, people within the pack, their car, the balance of the car might change. But because of that track bar adjustment, underratedly, like under the radar, it has decreased the amount of passing, just because drivers are able to control kind of the way they want the car to handle, even if they don't like it, even if the car is not the fastest car out there. If you're tight for the entire run. If you try moving it lower, you're not, basically what you're doing is you're compensating for that car not getting worse or not getting better. Basically, it's just, it kind of stays the same throughout the run. So that in-bar or that in-car track adjustment is not ideal for racing. I'll talk about that. I already talked about it here, but I'll talk about that in a future video as well. Next week we go to New Hampshire. I'm not expecting a lot there. I like New Hampshire as a driver's track, just with the car that it is right now. I think aero matters a little bit more than it should at a track like New Hampshire. So not expecting the best out of that. But I don't know. We'll hope and see. We're bound to have races like this. It's not like every race is going to be great. This is bound to happen. So really, really poor race tonight. 2 out of 10. Comment down below what you thought of the race. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Follow me on Twitter if you are not already. I like to communicate with you guys during the race. Joke around a little bit as well during races like this where there's really nothing else to do. So I'll see you guys later. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And
even if I tried, even if I wanted to, and I can't change. Even if I try, my love, she keeps me warm.